Um, okay, let me introduce myself. My name is Anthony Claravall. Um, that was canned applause, by the way. I'm a videographer. I've been filming skateboarding since about 1986 and filming skateboarding professionally since about 1993, I would say, 1993, 94. Marcus from Agora, he approached me maybe a week ago, or maybe 10 days ago, asked me if I would be interested in doing a talk, kind of like a TED talk. Pick any topic. So I picked one obviously very close to my heart, very close to what I do, and that's skateboarding videography. So I'm going to attempt to bring it was going to be 25 years of skateboarding videography in 25 minutes. But when I was kind of doing some research, putting it together, it was a little bit longer. So we're now at 35 years of skateboarding videography in 35 minutes. I don't know exactly how long we're going to be, but I guess let's do this. When you talk about skateboarding videography, obviously it's a thing, right? I mean, you guys have all grown up watching skate videos, your favorite pros, video parts, everything, right? But it really started more than 35 years ago. So the very first skateboard video, just so you know, was called Skater Dater. So Skater Dater came out in 1965. That was like the first wave of skateboarding, like the first like skateboarding boom, right? Super small boards, clay wheels. It was a story about a kid with the skate crew, and he falls in love with a girl in the neighborhood, and then it's like they go on a date. It's kind of a wholesome video for kids, for young adults, right? So just so you know, 1965 Skater Dater is where it kind of all started. But when we talk about skateboard videography, we're talking about the golden age of skate videos, right? So I started skating in about 1986. And the way things worked back then is that you started skateboarding, you picked up a Thrasher magazine, you skated with kids in the neighborhood, you met somebody who skated, but there wasn't an internet, there wasn't a way to get up to speed, right? So you were kind of introduced to like the boards or the pros of that time, and maybe you saw a video, right? So the skate videos were definitely like a thing, even back in like 1985, 1984. So I started skating in 1986, but Bones Brigade Video Show, Future Primitive, these videos they've been out for a while, but they were still fresh. It was still something you saw. It wasn't like, oh, that was last year. So, the people in the scene, the kids that you met, they'd be like, hey, this kid down the street, he has a video. You go to the kid's house and you'd watch the Bones Brigade Video Show, right? The Bones Brigade Video Show was a super important video for me and for skateboarding. So the company called Powell Peralta, it's probably the biggest skateboard company in the 80s, one of the biggest. It was Stacy Peralta and George Powell. George Powell was he was an engineer, right? He was almost like a scientist. This guy like developed skateboards. He developed wheel urethanes. He made the skateboards. Stacy Peralta was an ex-pro skater, and he did all the team stuff. He found the skaters. He developed pro skaters for the company. He made the videos. He filmed. He edited. He did everything. So the Bones Brigade Video Show was kind of a video that came out when people first started having like videos, right? So around that same time, like the VCR like hit America. So people had a VCR in their house; they could watch a video. Before that, it was just whatever was on television, and then maybe home movies on Super 8 or something like that. So people now had a VHS player. So the Bones Brigade Video Show was one of the first videos that people could like watch in their home. And, it had all the Bones Brigade skaters, from Lance Mountain to Tony Hawk, Steve Caballero. They were all like, big skaters, big stars. And, Tony Hawk is here on the cover. It was kind of like a free-form video. Back then, maybe Stacy Peralta would go and visit one of the guys and film all day. And then whatever they filmed that day was in the video. It wasn't like, later on, years later, as I'll talk about, like video parts that people took like years to film. It'd be just like one day. So the Bones Brigade video show was huge. A year later is Future Primitive, another video. And then when I started skating, which is like 1986, the first real video I saw that was current was The Search for Animal Chin. And at this point, a lot of these videos were obviously guys skateboarding, but then there were like skits, there were like stories. Animal Chin was almost like a real movie. It was like, there was a mythical guy, his name was Animal Chin, and the Bones Brigade went to try to find him, The Search for Animal Chin. It was, if you're 15 years old watching it, it's like, this was like the gospel. You know what I mean? This introduced like skateboarding, like how to do the tricks or what tricks people were doing, what people wore, like, like styles, everything. So, there's skits in this movie. There's things that people still reference to this day, right? But the reason that it's important really is that it was also like a big production. At this point, like, Stacey Peralta was making the videos for Powell, and he was like filming on film. You know what I mean? He would have sets. He would have like actors, playing skits. It was like a big deal. It wasn't something like, as we would see later on, where like everyone could pick up a video camera and film their friends. It was like a production, right? On the other side, we had Santa Cruz. So at that point, like 1985 and 1986, there was a lot of skateboard companies, but Santa Cruz and Powell were like the top, right? So in 1987, Wheels on Fire came out. Wheels on Fire was a different team, Santa Cruz, kind of a different vibe, a lot more punk rock, a little bit more raw, I would say. And for me as a kid, that was my shit. So Animal Chin was like the big production. It was super famous. But for me, Wheels of Fire had my favorite skater. So my favorite skater was Nadas Quapis, right? He was a street skater. He was known for like the highest ollie. He was the best skater. He was my favorite skater at that time. So I fucked with Santa Cruz and Nadas and Wheels of Fire way more than the Powell videos at that point. But I mean, Powell was huge and had a lot of fans. So then we come to 1988. Public Domain came out, and then in 1989 banned this, and the follow-up to Santa Cruz's Wheels of Fire, which is Streets on Fire. And so this is kind of the golden age of skate videos, because for me, this is the era where if you're watching skate videos now or in the last 15 years, these are the videos that inspired the people that became videographers, the people that became like who started filming skateboarding and making videos. Like this is where it all came from. This is kind of like the culture of videos. This is like the culture of skateboarding. These are the heroes. A lot of these guys are still ripping. A lot of these guys are still skating, whether it's Tony Hawk or Lance Mountain, Cab. They're still there. Tommy G, like all these dudes are still skating. So this is kind of like the golden age, right? But as that was kind of ending, a new technology was coming in. So like say in the early 80s, the VHS, the VCR hit like America. People had VHS machines, you could watch a video, right? And then a little bit after that, a few years later, video cameras hit America. So it's like now, you could go and buy a video camera. It was still big, it was still like expensive, but you could buy a video camera. And then if you're a skater, your dad had a video camera, or your uncle or your girlfriend's dad or whatever, you could take that video camera and film your friends. So then people started filming each other. And that was like a huge like paradigm shift. So the best example for me was H Street. So H Street was a small company. It was Tony Mag, a vert skater from, I want to say Sweden. I'm not even sure, right? Yeah, from Sweden. And he came and he started a company in San Diego. This is long story short, and it was kind of a revolution because the team was different, the vibe was different, the videos were different. So their first video was called Shackle Me Not, and it was still a little bit like the golden age of skateboarding. I mean, you can see Tony Maggs skating a vert ramp on the cover, right? But there was a lot of street skating in there, and a lot of it was just guys on the street skating, doing tricks, no skits, no actors, no weird music, you know what I mean? None of that. It was just skateboarding. And then by the time the next one came out, Hocus Pocus, 1989, it was even more, so it was crazy. So on the cover of Hocus Pocus, we got Matt Hensley. So if Nadas was my favorite skater, Matt Hensley was number 2. Matt Hensley wore, cargo shorts, had a shaved head, white tees. I still dress the same. I'm still influenced by the dude like 35 years later, right? But anyway, so, he's on the cover. He's street skating, you know what I mean? Not really. I mean, I guess it's a demo, but Matt Hensley's a street skater. So by the time you get to this, it's like, people filming each other, skaters filming each other, just video, just the tricks. None of the big budget actors or skits. It was just about tricks, right? And then that's the introduction, and then we firmly go into like what I would think is like video days. So, not only were the videos changing, but the companies were changing. So a lot of those companies, Powell, Santa Cruz, the big pros there, they were splintering off and starting their own companies, So it would be like, 1989 had Rubbish Heap, and then 1991 Video Days, and then 93 Questionable, and then Virtual Reality. So all these videos came out of the World Industries camp. So World Industries was a company that was started by an ex-freestyler, Steve Rocco, and then people like Nadas Quapis. So my favorite skater, he left Santa Cruz and he went to World and started a company there. Mike Chernowski from H Street left H Street and started a company at World called Plan B. So it was kind of like a lot of the original guys from the golden age of skateboarding and then the early video days. And then this is kind of like, instead of being a part of the video or, skating in it, they were actually behind the companies and making videos themselves. And these videos were even more just like trick after trick and music, and that's it. And the tricks were like progressive, you know what I mean? Like people were doing stuff where it was like, it wasn't like Stacy Peralta would go and visit somebody and film for one day. It would be like, okay, this guy took 3 months or 4 months and like wanted to do tricks, that he wanted to do that made him a better skater or whatever, invented tricks, and they filmed it and they had like, kind of video parts. This was huge because this really spoke to us as kids. So if I'm like 17 here, 16, 17, like this is what we wanted to see, like this was like the shit, you know what I mean? It was like, we stripped away from anything kind of like a script, and it was just skating, a lot of still like a lot of jokes and inside jokes and things like that, but it wasn't like, it was for us, it was for skateboarders. It wasn't about like, you couldn't watch these videos with your mom, you know what I mean? So like Animal Chin, the whole family could watch it. But by the time you got to Video Days, there's a skit where like they're in a fucking car, and then they pick up everyone gets picked up, and they all go skating. At the end, the car drives off a cliff, and they all die. So that's not the video you watch with your moms, right? But so this is kind of where it also made me feel like we could make videos, So like we couldn't make Animal Chin, you know what I mean? Like we couldn't do it. It was like airplane shots and like Johnny Rad singing, you know what I mean? Like it was crazy. But these videos, dude, you could take the video camera and go with your homies, and you could make something that looked like that. It could be the same, you could pretend to be Jason Lee, you know what I mean? You could pretend to be Guy Mariano. And we did. And then I think this is really important too. So this is also when it became like, the filmer. So this is what put me on the path to become like a filmer. So maybe before, Stacy Peralta was a cinematographer. You know what I mean? He would like, maybe they would even, do all the things you do in a movie, block out scenes, make a treatment, make a whole, like layout, like how you're going to shoot, a shot list, all these things, right? You're a cinematographer, right? You're making a movie. Now, it's actually, you're a filmer. So the filmer would go out and he would just try to film good tricks. You hook up with the homies, you hook up with this guy, this pro or that. I want to go here, and I want to film this trick, and I want it in my video part. So this is kind of where it started. The Life video, which was also out of H Street, had an amazing part by the guy on the cover. His name was Sean Sheffy, where it was about the tricks. He did insane tricks where it's like, this is fucked, you know? And then Tim and Henry, which is Blind Skateboarders, also out of World. Tim and Henry's Pack of Lies was fucked. I remember vividly when this video came out in 1992, 1993, you know, walking into a skate shop, seeing it playing on the television and watching it from beginning to end and watching it again because I couldn't believe the tricks that Henry Sanchez was doing. So it was like, it wasn't like a skateboard video for entertainment, you're like watching it with the homies or whatever. It was like, it was almost like a masterclass in skateboarding. Henry Sanchez was doing tricks that like I had never seen before at a speed I'd never seen before. Tim Gavin, who had also a part in that video, was popping tricks where people rolled them on the ground at that time. You know, flip tricks, they'd do a kick flip, it would roll on the ground. Mine did. But Tim Gavin would do nollie flips, and that shit would be popped and caught. And it was like a revolution, you know? And it was, a lot of that was, it was able to be captured by people like, I don't know, Socrates or Tim Dowling or the guys who filmed. And, you know, the reason some of the skateboarding came out was because of, there was a guy, like a filmer, that made it happen, that documented it the right way and showed it the right way. Finally, the FTC video, Aaron Meza, was huge too. You know, like there's all these videos here. Goldfish was the first girl video. And so these videos were, they definitely furthered the act of skateboarding, but also how it was captured, you know? And it wasn't an overnight thing. It didn't happen like, you know, that fast. I mean, you know, we're talking 91 to 94, but by 94, there was like, okay, there's a filmer. You know, you want to film it, you want to film a video part, or you want to get a trick, it would be good to have a filmer instead of just a random dude, right? And then we have another shift. In 1993, by 1993, there was a lot of skateboard videos, a lot of skateboard companies, and they would be making videos, and the videos would be promoting a brand, it'd be promoting a team, right? It could be a wheel company, it could mostly board brands, you know, whatever, but it was a video for a brand. In the 1993, videos beyond a single brand kind of happened. And then this also had a huge impact on me. So the video was called 4-in-1. It was 4-in-1 Video Magazine. And it was a little bit of a revolution because it was a video that was, that had like all kinds of skaters from 10 different brands, 20 different brands all around the world. So it was like the focus was on skateboarding and whoever did it. It didn't have to be like top pro. It could be unknown kid. It could be, you know, they had footage from like Holland. They had footage from LA and New York, Philly, you know, like all over. And so this was huge. And the craziest thing about it is at the end of issue 1, this came on the screen. So it says, send any high contributions on NTSC only with a brief explanation of what is on the tape and where to 4-in-1, right? So it actually told you that you could send some tricks or some footage to them. And me, so I'm like 17, let's say, or something, and I'm like, damn, dude, that's sick. So what did I do? I went and I you know, I had my my sister's boyfriend's video camera. I borrowed that, and I would go and I would just film with like all my homies and all the best skaters that I knew in New York and in New Jersey. And I filmed for like 4 months or like 2 months, and then I sent those tapes to 4-in-1. Right? Didn't know anything. I asked some friends. I had a friend who actually shot photos for Skateboard Magazine, and I asked him for advice, and he told me like, hey man, like these are the guys at 4-in-1. These are their names. Send your tapes to them. You might want to use this kind of camera. These cameras are better. These tapes are better, whatever. So I filmed for a couple months, sent it to 4-in-1, that address, everything right there. You know, I just sent them. And then I waited. So I waited for a couple weeks, and I was like kind of thinking, it's like, fuck, man, it's been a couple weeks. I wonder if those tapes got there. Did they see them? You know? So I looked again, and there was a telephone number, right? So I called a couple times, went to the machine, went to voicemail, And finally, I got somebody on the line, and it was Josh Friedberg. So it was Josh Friedberg was the editor of 4-in-1. So I got him on the phone. I was like, "Hey, my name's Anthony. I sent you some tapes. I'm in New York. I sent you some tapes." He's like, "Yeah. We got them. I saw them. Yeah, I saw the tapes." I'm like, "Okay, cool, man." I'm like, "Is there anything cool in there?" And he's like, "Yeah. We're gonna check it out. We'll get back to you." I was like, "Okay, cool." But I'm filming with a bunch of kids in New York, and I was like, they're asking me like, "What am I filming for?" And I was like, I told him I'm filming and I'm sending tapes to 4-in-1. Is it cool if I say I'm filming to send stuff to 4-in-1? And Josh was like, yeah, man, you could say whatever you want. It's cool, man. Yeah. Tell him you're filming to send to 4-in-1. And then that was like insane for me because it made me feel like, whoa, okay, I'm filming something and I'm sending it to 4-in-1 and maybe they'll use it. But it was probably more like Josh wanted to, regretted picking up the phone and wanted to get off the phone. But so this is something where skateboarding became more of a democracy, right? This is where something like everybody could be a part of, if you had a video camera. And then, long story short, I started sending stuff to 4-in-1, and they started using stuff, and I ended up working for 4-in-1. So, through that whole craziness, like I actually became a filmer. 4-in-1 was huge, very instrumental for me because it was, like I said before, a video that had all kinds of people. It was a focus on up-and-comers. It was a focus on different scenes. It was a focus on, not just one brand or not just like the main guys in skateboarding. A few people were not really into it. A lot of established pros, didn't want to be next to some unknown dude. You know what I mean? But that was what 4-in-1 was about, and that was what I was about. You know what I mean? For me, it was like a mandate to like take your camera and just film the best skateboarding you could find. Travel and do that. And then, to me, that's another thing, and which is Barcelona. In 1998, skateboarding was these brands and scenes, right? And like a huge scene was Embarcadero here on the left, San Francisco. All the guys that came out of Embarcadero either had a brand or were top skaters or top pros. It was everybody wanted to go to Embarcadero. Everyone wanted to go to San Francisco. I grew up in New York, and that's the Brooklyn Banks on the top right, and then that's where we skated every day. We would end up at the Banks, or we'd start at the Banks, and that's what we skated, and that's where I filmed. But because of 4-in-1 and the whole idea of you could travel and skateboarding is everywhere and skateboarding, could be found everywhere, that's how we got to Barcelona. So the very first time I saw or I heard of Barcelona as a skateboard destination was filming in Belgium. I went to Belgium to film. I skated with this guy named Julian Dijkmans and a guy named Quentin Debris. And they were the top skaters in Belgium at the time. And, we're like, yeah, let's skate. We film some stuff. And I'm like, yeah, what are you guys doing tomorrow? Or like, what are you doing next week? Maybe we can skate something else. And Quentin was like, oh, I'm moving to Barcelona. I was like, oh, crazy. I was like, like, why are you moving? He's like, dude, it's amazing for skateboarding. It's the best place I've ever been. My uncle lives there. I went to visit my uncle and I skate around and there's like amazing spots everywhere. It's fucked, And I was like, all right. So I looked at my friend and I was like, let's go to Barcelona. So we had Eurail passes. And at the end of our trip, we had no plans to go to Barcelona, but we took a train from Paris to Barcelona. Previous to that, I had seen footage of Jamie Thomas. Jamie Thomas had kickflipped the 4 at Machba. It used to be a 4, not a 3. And he had filmed some local dudes, Sam Rubio, Pabli, like dudes that were like, from Barcelona that nobody knew, maybe in America, but they were on as high of a level as any other pro. These guys were from Barcelona, like ripping, right? So that's the first thing I knew. I didn't really know much. I just saw that. So we went from Paris in 1998, the summer of 1998. We went from Paris to Sens. We took a train, got off at Sens, and stepped out of the train station, and there was a huge scene like right there. So on the left, this is what Sans kind of looked like when in 1998, right? On the left, on the top, and the bottom. So it was perfect ledges. It was they had a shade, so it was super hot. You could still skate. These tables, you could skate the benches on the table or the top of the table, and more importantly, there was people skating them. So we walk out, and then I vividly remember seeing this dude skating around, ripping. This is literally like the day I arrived, like all the bags, everything. I see a dude ripping, glasses, hat on, doing crazy tricks, switchback 180 nose grind, like pop shove it crooks, like video part tricks just live. And I was like, wow, this dude is amazing. And it was Raul Navarro. And, literally went up to him and was like, hey, what's up? Didn't speak any Spanish. I don't think Raul spoke any English. And then I was like, fuck, dude, you rip. I filmed for 4-on-1. He knew that. And we started filming. And we're still friends to this day. He's one of my favorite skaters. There was dudes there that I saw that first day. Marcus Gomez is one of them. He's still around, still a good homie. Julio Arnau. There's people like Jelly. There's so many people that were there in 1998, 1999 that are still in skateboarding. And, and I was really tripping at that point because, not only that there's skaters there, that's not really that big of a deal. I mean, skateboarding was everywhere, but they were on that level. And then that summer too, or actually the summer before, briefly, I'd met, I was on a Powell tour, and I met a Powell flow dude from Europe, from Spain. His name was Javier Sarmiento, and he would become one of my best friends and one of my favorite skaters. And so, this is kind of the start. At that point, it was just Sans that people skated. We went to Macba, and there was no wax on any of the ledges. So, Barcelona was a really different kind of city there at that point. People skated Sans, some people skated parallel. Maybe you would go to uni and skate, but Macba was pretty much like, Jamie Thomas kickflipping the 4 was kind of like, whoa, you could skate, you could skate here. Fast forward to today, you can't go to Macba and not see a wax ledge, and there's a lot of fucking people. But this to me is also a big shift in skateboarding videography because, the whole point of that whole story is that skateboarding began to be everywhere. It wasn't like the guys from around the world would go to Embarcadero or go to the Brooklyn Banks or be in LA. It was like, okay, now top pros, all skaters, whatever, would go to some new places, and Barcelona was that new place and became, as you guys know, it's, still the mecca of street skating, and it's still probably the best city ever for skateboarding. Then a few years after that, the same mentality. I remember going to Barcelona for the first time and just being like, this is crazy. Like, why aren't people coming? We have to come and skate. Like, we have to come. It's so good. And then, Jamie Thomas, I talked to Jamie yesterday, and, I asked him, I was like, how did you feel the first time he went to Barcelona? And Jamie said he came in 97 with Mike V on a tour and was kind of blown away by the spots. Came back the next year with Atiba and a couple other dudes and skated for the first time and was like blown away by the spots and the skaters. And then, he's been coming back, every year since then for the last 20 plus years. Jamie's coming actually with his whole family, like in like a week or so. So, it's that kind of reaction, you know what I mean? I mean, we're here with some guys for the first time that been to Barcelona for the first time, and some guys who've been here 1,000 times, and it's still kind of the same impact. Doesn't matter, who you are, or if you skateboard, Barcelona, is that city. But the same mentality kind of, drove me to check out other spots. So in the early 2000s, we 4-on-1 did a video series called Around the World, and I guess that's kind of like the real full circle when it comes to traveling around. It was kind of like spotlighting countries and cities that people had never been for skateboarding. People kind of built a whole career. Kenny Reed is a good friend of mine. He's from upstate New York. Pro skater, had a pro board, pro shoe. He became like the Traveler. That was his nickname because he started traveling. He started going to countries that like had, no one had ever gone to skateboard before. So it became like a really big thing. I started going to China, because of the same thing. It was just like really, really amazing for skateboarding. All these countries in Asia too. Like, I love going to Japan for the culture, Thailand as well. And there was really good skateboarding too, and really good skateboarders. So, this is like another way that like, I guess like the skateboarding became like a democracy, not only in the United States, but for like, globally, it was the dream for kids to go to LA to turn pro. And now it was like a dream for skaters, pro or not, from LA to go to Makba, to go to Sans, to go to China. I flew with people from LA straight to a spot in China, filmed a trick, and they left. It got to that point. It was kind of insane. So that's it. Yeah, that's the early 2000s, right? There was people, like I said, literally flying, 20-hour flight to get somewhere, film a trick, and go home, for their video part. And that leads me to the next thing, which was single parts. So prior to that, we talked a little bit about the evolution of like, this is a skateboard movie, right? And then we have a skateboard video, which is like, the skateboard video became the intro, first person, the first skater, usually like the new pro. People had individual parts. Maybe there was a slam section, a friend section, and then the ender, right? Like the most important part. It was kind of something to be watched. Like it was meant to be seen like from beginning to end. That was a skate video. It was like each part interfaced with the other, and all the individual parts as a whole became something. And then with technology, but technology changed, right? So you were watching the videos on a VHS, then you went to DVD, and then you watched them on the internet, right? So that's really what happened, and this is what happened here, where in 2011, I guess arguably this is the first like standalone internet part, was Tori Pudwell's Big Bang. So Tori Pudwell is a kid that I've seen grow up from, he was sponsored at like 11 years old, 12 years old, was that little kid, and then became a pro skater and, one of the top skaters. And he had a video part that was online, and it was just him. And that really changed a lot of things too. So it wasn't about like, you didn't have to worry about the whole team. Like you didn't have to worry about the video. Like, the guy with the third part, like he broke his leg, so we have to delay the whole video by 6 months or whatever. It was just one person, and he could do whatever he wanted, go wherever he wanted. And Tori wanted to go to Barcelona, and he came here and he killed it. And he made a video part and released it, and people were like, at that point, were like, "Are you sure? Like, it's gonna be free? It's gonna be on the internet? It's gonna be on Thrasher? Like, it's not a video? Like, are you sure? Like, that could be a mistake." But Tori was like, "Nah, man. Like, this is it." He did it, and that also changed what videography was in skateboarding. A few years later, Luan had a part called Strike and Destroy on Thrasher also. Ewan Bowman, a good homie of mine, filmer for Thrasher, he went to Brazil, filmed a video part with Luan in Brazil, and it became like the first skate video to hit like 1 million views. Right now it's at like 4.5 million, 4.6 million. But like maybe, now things go viral, it's not that unusual to understand that people around the world seeing it. But at that point, like in 2016, to say that 1 million kids watched this video part was insane. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it wasn't just playing in a store or whatever. Like people had to like search it out and watch it, and that was a huge thing. I'm probably nearing the 35-minute mark.
34:52.
There you go. So, fast forward. I mean, this is kind of it. Like, this is it. This is today, right? So skateboard videography, right? It went from cameras, big production. It went from, VHS cams and like filming your friends and like, a filmer and this and that. And skateboarding videography today, honestly, is an iPhone. I don't know if there is filmers. There's a few filmers. But I actually know some filmers that all they film with is the iPhone. And then, some people in our industry, and some traditional filmers are kind of like, this is fucking crazy. Like, what the fuck? Like, no cameras, like iPhone, but to me, I think that's like the end result or the most democratic thing you can do in skateboarding. Cause it's like, it's just the skaters, like people skate and their friends film, and then the filmer skates and the other friend films. And it's like, you always have your camera, your iPhone with you. It's like, the footage is amazing. Like you can edit it right there. You can post it right there. A kid in Uganda can film a trick, could upload it, could be on YouTube or fucking on Instagram, and the whole world can see it in 30 minutes, in 30 seconds. And then, like it's not like a video that took 5 years to film, came out on a VHS. You had to wait for that VHS, somebody in, Uganda to get a VHS player and get the tape to watch it. It's really like immediate. It's really now. I think it's easy for people to be like, oh, that's not skateboarding. That's not real filming or whatever. But, for me, it's it's kind of the logical, the end result. And like I said, I think it's rad because it just means that videography is accessible to everybody, and then you just get to see a lot of talent and a lot of more scenes, and just a lot of rad skateboarding. Do I think that, the traditional skateboard video is dead? No. I'm filming video parts. I probably have 8 video parts I'm filming at the same time right now, in 2022. But, I also understand that things change, and even whatever we're talking about today, we have this conversation in a year, it'll be radically different. So yeah, that's about it. I don't know if there's going to be questions or not, but that's hopefully 35 years of skateboard videography in just under 35 minutes.